going to talk about Basic Kata Two, and we're really just going to focus on right now the high block, because that's the only difference between Basic Kata 1 and 2. But it's something that I see done incorrectly, as well as I see let go incorrectly a lot. I'll demonstrate a couple, which I know all of you have seen this many times, some of the very incorrect ways that are being done. And I want to bring up the point that a lot of times as instructors, we tend to think, they'll get it as they go along. It's good enough for now. Maybe I've got all these other students to worry about. That's pretty good for them. No. Okay. It needs to be done right. It needs to be done correctly with correct structure. This is very important, especially at this level, because again, if we're practicing bad habits, we're not going to reach some magical threshold somewhere that is suddenly going to turn into a good habit. It's not going to happen. You're reinforcing the bad habits every time you allow them to continue to do that. If you find yourself feeling like you're harping on your students, good, okay? That's your job. You need to harp on them. They're not there to be told, it's good enough. No, make sure they do it right and continue to bother them until they do it right. That's what we do. Okay? That's our job as instructors. It's our responsibility to make sure that they don't go on to the next level until they have done things to meet the standard that is required to move on to the next level. There is no, they got most of it. They'll pick up that other thing that they were supposed to have for this belt between this belt and the next belt. Absolutely not, okay? It doesn't matter if it takes a student 3 months or if it takes a student 3 years to move from one belt to the next. What matters is they moved there honestly and they earned that belt, okay? So, with the high block, with all blocks, the purpose of the block is to clear the center, okay? This is where our danger is, our parts that we have to protect. So when we're doing a block, we need to clear the center. That's the ultimate goal of it. And we also need to make sure that we're not wasting motion, which means taking a block out past where it belongs. Like I showed with the low block, if I take the low block out here, look, once I hit here and the strike's not hitting me, the rest of this is doing nothing at all. Really, you don't have any power past that point to begin with because your body's not behind you anymore. And it takes time to bring that back. So now you're down a weapon over here for protection-wise. Okay. The same thing with the high block. These are two of my absolute just favorites as far as horribly done high blocks. The first one is just straight up right here. Okay. And it goes right over top of the head, right there, okay? Or it might go right in front of the forehead, all right? I think we can all agree that is absolutely useless, okay? That's not going to protect you. It's not going to stop anything. And let's be honest, it looks ridiculous, okay? It should not be tolerated. You need to fix that every time you see it. Do not let it go and think that they're just going to get better. They're not just going to get better. Your job is to make them better. So be proactive in that approach. Now, my other favorite one, which is probably the most useless, unless you're fighting a guy that's over here and you want to throw some crazy U-punch at him or something, is the high block that comes from the outside and it loops up. Okay, again, does nothing. Punch is coming in here, punch is coming down. It makes no difference. Okay. So the thing that both of those have in common is that they're right over top of the head, usually, is where they end up sitting. One does a fairly decent job and covers the center, but in completely the wrong way. And the end result is terrible. So the the right way to do our high blocks is we clear the center, and then we come up and out, okay? The wrist should be about in line generally with the center line of your head, but it's not straight up, okay? It's not just up, it's up and out, right here. Boom. Oh, so I have this 45-degree angle away from me for something that's coming in that I pushed up and away. So it's going to clear me. But again, I don't need to go up here because as long as it misses my head, I'm fine. It's kind of like a parry or a pat in boxing, or even in like Filipino boxing, we do a lot of this, okay? But this is as far as we go, right? Because it's past your face. It doesn't do any good. If you're out here pushing, you know, as the old saying goes, don't try to kill a fly with a sledgehammer, right? It's not necessary, okay? So keep it within your body's framework, but also understand the purpose of it. Now this is going to become a lot more important when we start getting into weapons such as the stick or the knife, because that movement's not going to change. Now, to see how the high block is done properly, we have a basic block for the stick that's called the roof block, okay? And the roof block comes up just like that. Now, if you take this, now look at it, okay? This is half your roof, this is half your roof. It's a deflection. It's making things go away from my head. Now, if I take that stick away, what do I got? I got a high block. Exactly a high block, okay? And with the stick, I'm not going over here. Again, this is the same. You see this with the stick too. The bad habits don't change, okay? Or come up here, okay? Neither one of those things works. Anybody that's had a stick come at them, they know because they probably have a big melon on their head or a scar from it, okay? When it comes up, it clears the center, comes out, okay? This way, this gives that rotation. You don't have that with the stick, but with an empty hand, I like a little rotation, okay? That's why when we do a low block, we're up here, and there's a little rotation, okay? Inside block, there's a little rotation. Outside block, there's just a little bit of rotation, okay? High block, there's a little rotation. Why? Because it makes things kind of glance off a little more, okay? It's a subtle detail, not entirely necessary, but it's good to practice. Every little thing that you can get for an edge is great. Also, with a knife, okay? When you're using a knife, when you do that motion of a high block, if you stick it under something, it's coming up and out, okay? So these movements aren't going to change. When you start using these things, you know, your low blocks, your inside blocks, your outside blocks, these are more outward, same motion, okay? All these things are going to be the same, okay? Your inside block, your outside block, right? Again, outward, low block. These things, they don't change, okay? No matter whether you're doing an empty hand or weapon. So if you start having bad habits, empty hand from the beginning, and they start moving into weapons, it's going to be a bad deal, okay? And they're just not going to get it. And that's not the time. You know, when they're at the upper levels, they should not be having to fix their basics. It's your job to make sure those basics are done.